We're going to devote our energies to sports and gardening, all the cultural pursuits as far as they're concerned. In fact, we're going to put the goons to sleep. Meanwhile, we dig.
Here we go again.
Greetings and welcome to the Anadrome. This is Burn Power with a pair of reviews. Not really reviews, a kind of a collision between two movies I saw at the end of last week, and I should do this before they become ancient history as these things go. And before we do this, let me just tell you that I have a Patreon page now. There will be a link below. I'm going to make an official announcement very soon and tell you how it works. And by very soon, I mean in a day or two. So hang on for that. Meanwhile, have you liked this channel yet? This video? Well, do that afterwards. Have you supported the page? Do you want to contribute? Do you want to just simply subscribe? Costs nothing, or hit the bell notification icon. You can do all these things and more. Well, let's get into it. So, last week, I decided on Thursday, the day the films opened, that there were two films I wanted to see on the same day. And you would think to yourself, well, you can just go to a multiplex and watch one and then the other. There was a problem. One film, F1, starring Brad Pitt, was playing at the IMAX theater. Well, it was also playing in other theaters, but I wanted to sit at the IMAX theater. And so I saw it was playing at noon. Now, the problem is this is about, 10 miles from where I live. And the only way to get there, that's about, we'll say 16 kilometers just for whatever. The only way to get there is to get on a bus, that is to say without driving or renting getting a taxi or a Bolt or whatever. The only way to get there is to get on a bus, and it takes about an hour to get there. It's a long ride. But I like it because it gives me a chance to read. That's one of the things I like about bus rides. When they're not super jam full, I read. So I went out and did that. Now, the problem was the second film I wanted to see was also playing there. It was M3GAN 2.0. Unfortunately, they were all Georgian dubbed versions, and the Georgians kind of follow the Russian style of dubbing, which is you see someone talking and you hear an actor talking over them. And in the background, you can hear the original voice way in the background still. It's annoying. So yeah, no, there's no way on earth I'm going to watch that. So I then had to take the bus back and then wait for a couple hours and then take another bus to where M3GAN, how are people pronouncing it? The 3 was just a advertising gimmick, so I don't think we need to say it. But basically, so it was time for me to do that as well. So by the time I was done, travel time and movie time was 10 hours. So that's quite a bit. But the interesting thing is, by the time I was done, I said, I wasn't thinking of doing a review of either one, although the M3GAN one was more interesting to me, at least at the beginning. And then at the end, I thought, oh, these are kind of connected in a way. And as you can tell by the title of the video, it's The Rise of the Machines. And both of them really hit technology in very interesting ways, and in kind of unsettling ways as well. So, F1, should you see it? Well, first of all, yeah. If you like cars at all, yeah. If you like Brad Pitt, yeah. If those two are high on your list, just go see it. And go see it in the biggest theater possible. Because this film, I saw it in a nearly empty IMAX theater, because no Georgian is going to show up to an English language version on a Thursday afternoon at noon, because they're working. Georgians are busy. But, so there were about 10 people in this huge theater. Kind of funny. But I sat where I always sit in the IMAX theater, second row, middle. And so the cars are driving over me, just like, yeah, and I can't even imitate the sound effects. I want to, but I can't, because it's just too incredible. But here's the thing. Does this film hit the usual familiar beats with this kind of movie? Yes, absolutely. The older guy who's the grizzled veteran versus the younger guy who's arrogant. He finds a bit of romantic solace. There are other people who are saying you can't do it. There are all of these sorts of things. But in a world where so often some sort of political message is being thrust down our throat, I'm quite happy to just see a normal film that doesn't try to subvert expectations. I have a whole video on that on my Anadromist channel where I'm just done with it. I'm done with subverting tropes. Because, and I think it worked for a while, but now we're at the point where we have 2, maybe 3 generations of people who do not know the originals anymore. It is interesting that there have been in the last few years several racing films. There was Ford versus Ferrari, another very good film. There's the film just called Ferrari, which is more of a biopic, but that has its share of good race scenes. There was Gran Turismo, which I didn't see, which I'm told is more of a, based on a video game, and it got okay reviews, but not great. And then there's this one. And this one is done by the same guy who did Top Gun Maverick. I want to say Kosinski, but I'm just going to put the name there. And yeah, I'm just doing this, winging this, because I don't want to spend a lot of time doing it. It's just a very short video for me. But here's the thing. It really shows you what goes on behind the scenes of the race as well as on the track. Now, the Formula One races in Europe are just cars going around a lap over and over and over, hundreds of times. I don't know how many hundred, but, I don't follow racing enough to know or particularly care. But they really did a good job of putting you inside the cars. And especially in the IMAX environment, it's just like, you're more than once, I was just sitting there going, just tapping my feet, going like, okay, come on. It's just very intense race footage and such. Probably some of the best that has ever been done. But there's another aspect to the race besides this, and that is that behind the scenes, for instance, when you pull into the pit stop, you have literally seconds, and I don't mean over 10 seconds, to change the wheels and do the stuff. So you have your pit crew, and they're helping Brad Pitt. And it's like, it just happens incredibly fast. And then there is people behind them, and by behind, I don't mean directly behind, although they might be there too, but I mean following monitors. Everything in the car is the highest precision form of automotive transportation. And everything now is dealt with by screens and computers. And so much so to the fact that the only thing that isn't is the driver. And of course, the driver has to make split-second decisions. And a lot of this movie is kind of a John Henry thing. You know, the African-American folktale of John Henry versus the drilling machine. And John Henry is using his 2 10-pound hammers and drilling into the mountain. He beats it, but he breaks his heart. And there's a lot of that folk story in this, because Brad Pitt is the old school, shall we call it, mechanical driver, who is now in a digital environment. Now, he knows this environment. But what's interesting is that I'm watching this and saying, like, wow, you need to... how much mathematics do you have to know now to be a driver in these races? I mean, how much do you have to know about the digital world? Because it's the driver too. The driver is worried about microseconds and nanoseconds, and they're trying to shave off time here. They're trying to cut in there. Absolutely fascinating, and you realize how much of our world is now encased in technology, and that's not good news. That is difficult news. Will we get a hold of where we are? Now, some people take the optimistic view of which is kind of like, well, we always just muddle along. Do we? Did we muddle along in World War II? Was that muddling? Is what's going on in the world right now muddling? I don't think so. I think it's a bit more intense, chaotic, and purposeful all at once. It's very strange. So I get in the bus and I travel and I go and I eventually show up at M3GAN 2.0. Now, I really liked the first M3GAN, and I felt that I was really looking forward to seeing this one. But when I walked out, I was feeling a little differently. I enjoyed the film. I thought it was an enjoyable couple hours passed. But they had done something to it. Now, the first film has real genuine moments of horror. It's played as a horror film. And it's got very sardonic humor, particularly coming out of the mouth of the robot, the AI, the android. And this one, I almost felt by the end they'd turned M3GAN into a superhero, that this was like a superhero origin story. And she's going in and out of computers and systems. There's a second M3GAN called Amelia, who's been designed off of the plans that were stolen in the last movie, which kind of happened surreptitiously, but you kind of knew that was a plant for a sequel. And they give her an overhaul in looks, so she's taller, because obviously the actress is taller. And it's got a lot more kind of dark comedy. I would almost call this a science fiction comedy at this point. And there was some lip service paid to what are cell phones doing to our children, what will AI do to us, and this sort of stuff, which I think we need those. But in a weird way, technology has moved on so far in 2 years since the first M3GAN movie. And it's amazing. I always love how people get converted to technology. They at first they kind of laugh nervously about it, except for a few early adopters. Then they've got their friends who are saying like, no, this really is great. And then after a while, they have to do it themselves. So they get on Facebook, they start working with AI and whatnot. And then after a while, someone says, God, I hate doing this. And then people start noticing all the problems this thing creates. And it really does. And then people start to complain about it. Right now, we're in that phase with social media and the smartphones. And we arrived at that place with cars a long time ago. And yet we still use cars, and we will still use smartphones, and unfortunately we're going to use AI. People don't use much thought behind it. And this film became kind of an apologia for phase 2 of AI, which bothered me. Like I said, I enjoyed the movie. M3GAN was still kind of quippy and witty, not nearly as dangerous. And in fact, she was on the side of the good people in this one, which is why it makes me feel like it was almost a superhero origin story, whereas she starts off dark and then she is, sees the light, but she has this dark side to her personality, very much like that. And she does weird physical stunts as well as can put herself inside of the online world and all the rest of it. So I walked out of there with mixed emotions, but as I walked out, I thought to myself, Well, one of the reasons, by the way, that the film has such a different tone is because the director decided he got a lot of response from the dance scene in the last M3GAN on TikTok. Also, so naturally there's more dancing. Also, M3GAN became kind of a camp gay character. And I think she hits, if not the uncanny valley, then certainly the cute valley, which is where a lot of trans folks live. And I think that, I know. In fact, let me show you what the director said.
2.0 are making it out to be a chick flick, which has sparked some concern in the M3GAN, or I guess I should say the M3GAN fandom, which I sometimes call the M3GANdom. Is there anything that you can say to kind of calm those fears for people?
Yeah, I would say the marketing has leaned really heavily into kind of the campness of more the audience, I guess, some of the hardcore fans in the movie itself. The movie's a little bit more of a straighter action movie. It's not as camp as the trailer is. There's some moments, but it's like we are always conscious to tell a joke with a straight face. It's also important to me as well, the film's like hugely popular with gay men and young girls, but I kind of feel like as long as I'm true to the character, those demographics will come along for the ride and will appreciate that we're not trying to pander.
That's interesting. I did not know that it was becoming big with young girls, because I guess that's not my typical audience.
Yeah.
Do you think that the way that the fan base has kind of picked it up, like the thing that they did at Halloween Horror Nights and all of the fan art and stuff on TikTok kind of contributed to them leaning into that with the marketing?
I think it's a little bit of that. I would hope that young girls aren't on TikTok. But I think it's also that she's kind of like a living doll. It's like, girls, at that age are playing with dolls, and here is this like ultimate doll, really. She can do anything, and she can kind of, she can protect you as well from bullies and annoying neighbors.
So there you are. The film was made more for the camp audience who likes that sort of thing, which I feel is a shame, because I really liked the tone of the first one. If there's a third one, will I go see it? Yes, I will, because I don't think it'll be the same as the second one. It'll probably get a bit of blowback, but these films aren't made for that much, so it'll probably make its money. Now, when I walked out, I felt that both films were about the encirclement of technology in their own way. And by saying that, what I mean is that both films show you a world where you cannot escape technology in your day-to-day life. And in a sense, we are seeing, to use the Terminator-esque type of term, the rise of the machines. We are seeing that. But this shouldn't be news to anybody. Especially, people go back and forth. Sometimes they think they dream these dreams where technology will save us. Technology will improve our lives so much. And in many ways, you can always point to the fact that they do. For instance, if I want to go traveling now, I can just go online. I can buy a ticket. I can make arrangements for places to stay. I can do research on the place I want to visit. I can figure it out all online. And then go walk through my trip and then come back. The only problem is, I'm not the only person who can do that. It's not my personal sense of victory in doing that. Everybody does that. And so we have seen tourism, well, the word over-tourism has showed up. So the dark side of this particular aspect of the internet is to feed a massive feeding frenzy of people going to places where they have done minimal research. They just know I should go to Paris because there's an Eiffel Tower. I should go to Amsterdam because of the coffee shops and the red light district. I should go to Florence to see all that stuff, and Rome. I should go to London. And you go to these places now, and I've been traveling long enough, and I'm old enough, to have seen the experience of travel just radically change. And that's because of the technologies we have. I mean, it's more than one. It's not just the internet. So both of these films show this. In the end, I thought that in F1, the ending is Brad Pitt. It's actually quite a touching ending, and maybe it's the fact I'm older, and it's about an older guy trying to prove something. Not that I'm trying to prove anything. I'd just like to leave something behind. But he goes through this. I won't tell you what happens, but in the last shots, you see him just driving a dune buggy around. And there is a sense in which he's still trying to retain his humanity. And the dune buggy, much less technical creature than the Formula One cars, represents that humanity in a sense. M3GAN, it's funny, but I have more dark thoughts about it. And it's becoming a franchise, which is itself a weird technological kind of trap for us. It makes money, we need to make more. After a while, it doesn't matter what you fill in the content with. And that reminds me of how content in the internet age has gone from being something that filled something with meaningful content. That's how the word was used when I was, in the 1980s or something. Whereas now content means just empty filler. Well, that's all I want to say. I recommend highly F1. If you wanted just a popcorn movie that's not particularly offensive or stupid and has bits of humor and you like a bit of campy humor, I recommend M3GAN. That's all I've got to say for today. I actually have a review that I've already done, but I've been waiting because I didn't want to put these two together, on The Ugly Stepsister, which is a film I saw about a week and a half ago, which really got to me, and I have to get it out of my system. But that review is already done. I'm just waiting for this to go out first. And look for my Patreon message, and when you do, at the moment I've got an introductory offer. You can sign up for a year for $2
a month,
which you should be able to afford. I mean, what is $2 in today's world? Really? Seriously. Well, from Tbilisi, Georgia, where they speak Georgian and they say words like drobi, which means temporarily. We will meet again, and nakwamdis, which of course means goodbye.
When I go, I want you to give me 5 minutes. I told you boys I'm no escape artist. For the first time, I like the odds.
At the round earth's imagined corners, blow your trumpets, angels, and arise, arise from death, you numberless infinities of souls.